So our penultimate example class we're going to walk through is the OneShotExecutorServiceFuture class. You can see here that you can find it at this particular link. It extends SearchTaskGang Common, so it indirectly extends TaskGang, and it customizes this SearchTaskGang Common superclass to do a one-shot search for words and a list of strings with a thread pool and futures, and it uses a variable size thread pool, and you can find the code there. So the executor model is a variable size thread pool, also known as a cached thread pool. The unit of concurrency is a little different now. It's task per search word as opposed to the input string. And so we're going to get a different type of concurrency going on here. And the results processing model is synchronous future model that defers results processing until later as the work finishes. So let's take a look at the constructor. The constructor is going to create a new cached thread pool and make that the executor. And then the initiate task gang is kind of interesting. What it's going to do is it's going to make ourselves a results future, which is this list of futures to search result objects, which will be the size of the input size times the number of words to find. And then we're going to iterate through this thing calling process input on the input data. We'll see what that does in a second. And when we're done with that, we call process future results, as you'll see. So the input data elements are not processed concurrently. The words are processed concurrently. And this is what it looks like. Process input will take each word to find and submit it to the executor, which will then go ahead and run it in the background asynchronously. And what we get back from calling submit is a future. And we take that future and we store that in the list of result futures. So that's how that gets updated. So we're going to end up with a list of result futures after we start all those tasks running asynchronously in the cached executor thread pool. Now, the result processing doesn't start until all the futures are added. So we have to submit all the calls. And once we've got all the calls done, we now have a list of futures, and we're going to go ahead and call process future results to process them. And what process future results will do is it's going to loop through the list of result futures. And for each one of these things, it's going to get the result. And what's interesting here is that the result could very well block because it may not be ready yet. So that's what makes this a little tricky, because depending on the order in which things get submitted, they may not complete in the same order that they were submitted. So there could be some delays due to that. And that is what I refer to here. This synchronous future processing model has some limitations that we'll address with the one-shot executor completion service implementation we'll look at next. So let's go ahead and take a look at the code that you can find at this link. So here's the one-shot executor service future. It extends SearchTaskGang Common. We have a list of futures to search results here. And you can see how we initialize the SearchTaskGang Common here. We go ahead and set the executor to be a new cached thread pool. Remember, cached thread pools, as you hopefully learned when you watched the videos in the asynchronous part of the course, they're going to create a new thread if there isn't already one available. If there is a thread that's available and idle, it'll be reused. But if there is not one, it'll be created. So it's kind of this halfway between having the threads a fixed size and creating them from scratch each time. It's kind of hybrid. Here's initiate task gang. We're going to pre-allocate the list of futures to hold all the search results. We take the input size and the number of words to find, and we multiply those things together. And then we go ahead and we'll make an array list for those. We call process input for each of the input strings. And let's go take a look at what that does. You can see what process input does is it iterates through each of the words to find at this time, and it submits a task that will search for that word in the input data. So we're making the word the unit of concurrency here. And we get back this result future, and we add that to the list. When we're done starting everything off, running asynchronously, we take that list of futures and we process them. And you can see we just iterate through these futures, and we call get, which may block if that particular future's computation has not finished yet, which is what makes this a little tricky. And when we're done, when it does return, we get it using the supplier get method, and then we print the results. So that's the one-shot executor service future model. It's a little complicated, and quite frankly, actually replicates in user code or our application code a lot of the capabilities we're about to talk about with the fourth and final implementation strategy, which is one-shot executor completion service.